Today we're going to be dealing with a very important topic in SCCM, which has to do with the curation of collection. So we need to understand what collection means in SCCM world or within Configuration Manager, the importance, the types of collections that we have, and what it means and how it can be used. We also be going into creating different kind of collections, that is going to be needed, for depending on the kind of deployment that we'll be going to be working on. So we're going to do all this, then we're going to do practical sections as well, in line with the explanation relating to, collections in Configuration Manager. Like I said, the most important thing, number one, is for you to understand what collection is all about and how you can be able to assess it. So which of the tabs within the SCCM environments can you find the collection? So we're going to be looking at all that. So first and foremost, what is collection? Collections are a group of users or devices. And what that means is that you can create collection based on user, and you can create collections based on devices. So depending on the kind of deployment that you want to run within SCCM, will determine the kind of collections that you want to use. And these has to do with example, like I want to deploy an application, but I don't want it just to be on every computer. However, any domain user that logs into any of the machine, I want the software to be deployed on that machine for that person to use it. More like a roam user, and the deployment will go as well. So that meaning that if the person logs into any computer within the domain, all applications that have been assigned on this particular account is going to be deployed to that machine, even though other people will not be able to use it. So that installation will only be available for that user. Now, when you're doing deployment based on devices, you're saying that regardless of who is going to be logging into this machine, I want this software to be available. So that is the those kind of two kind of collections that you can create. Okay, so again, collection relating to users means that you're creating collections that is going to be user specific, meaning that it's based on user accounts. Those are the things you're going to see. Those are the people you're going to see inside that collection. But when it is a device collection, you're going to be seeing computers and not users. So those are the two groups. And as we've all known, you can find these under Assets and Compliance tab in your SCCM. So we literally use collection for taxes, like managing application, deploying compliance settings, or installing software updates. Okay, and you can also use collection to manage group of client settings, or use them with a kind of a role-based administration to specify the resources that an administrative user can access or can use. So Configuration Manager literally contains several built-in collections. So when we go into SCCM, you realize that there are some collections that users or administrators did not create by themselves, but it comes directly with SCCM. So we'll be looking at this by the time I logged into the SCCM environment, and we'll also be creating what we call a custom collection. Most management tasks rely on or required using more than one collection. So it depends on what you want to do. Normally in SCCM, sometimes people tend to create different collections for different deployments. And the whole essence is that there are some times whereby you need to deploy an application, or you need to deploy a package. That application or a package might not be meant for everyone. It might be meant for specific people, right? So you need to create that application based on the scope of work. There are some times that they can tell you that you need to create a collection that is going to include all the Windows 10 within an organization, right? And there are sometimes you need to create a collection based on the number of servers or the kind of operating systems that you want to target. So that's why I said that you can have as many collections within SCCM as possible, but everything has to deal with your scope of work or what you're trying to do literally within the SCCM environment. Now, remember that I said that when it comes to collection, we have a built-in collection that comes with SCCM by default. As much as we have this built-in, we also have collection. We also have a custom-based collection where you have to configure based on the scope of work. Okay, I'm just saying this so you understand in detail what I'm trying to say. So built-in and custom collections appear in user collections and device collections. So it depends on which angle you're trying to work. By the time you go to under user collection, you're going to see the built-in collection that's been created. And also when you go to device collection as well, you're going to see the built-in that's already been done. So after we see all this, we'll now be going into practical to be able to create a custom one based on what we want to create for it. Okay, so collections that has been recently viewed by users always appear under other users node or under device node in the assets and compliance. So I'm going to be sharing my screen now, so majority of what I'm saying, so that we can be more practical about it and see where exactly it lies within the environment we're trying to work. Okay, so let me connect to my screen that has the SCCM environment. That's my number 2. Can we all see my screen, please? I just want us to confirm before I start moving on.
Yes.
Okay, so like what I'm saying the other time is on the SCCM environment, which we've already done a tour before, you will see this. So now under assets and compliance, you will see that we have users. This is going to give you, based on the configuration that we did under our administration that I showed you guys in one of the classes, when you go to your hierarchy configuration, whatever you've configured under your discovery method, okay, and you have your users. So that is what publish all the users that we have here. And this is in synchronization with, what we have in AD and also what we have in the cloud, because we have a co-management setup. So sometimes the way it looks like might be different from what you're going to see in the, when you're working and you have to work with SCCM. So some users are not created, on the on-prem Active Directory, but rather created on the Azure AD. Okay, so yeah, this is what I'm saying. By default, you have a user collection. Now, anything like all user group and users and all user group and computers are all built-in collections that has been created. It comes with the SCCM. However, it's been published and it gets all the information that it needs from the Active Directory. So this config manager L2 deployments and config manager L3, I created them. So this is what we regards to as custom, collection, and these 3 are regards to as built-in collection. Same thing happens when you go under device collection. Now, all desktops and server clients, all mobile devices, all provisioning devices, all systems, all unknown computers are all default built-in collections that comes when you install your SCCM. So where you see CSTC, which means Crossword Social Technology Corporation, is a custom collection, which is different from the one that comes by default. So that's all I've been trying to say since for you to understand. Now, when I mean that when you open a user collection or a device collection, that it opens as a user node or a device node, is that like this now, just watch here. If you can come under device collection and I decide to open this to see who are the member of CSTC-all systems, if I click on it, watch what happens here. It's going to open a node. So this is called a node. Okay, so the device node is going to come here for you to show what I've already requested for it here. So if I come here now under CSTC, now here I'm not seeing it, I'm just seeing the number of machines there, and it has been opened here as a node. So if I open it, you're going to see 18 machines that is there. If I should select all, you'll see that it is 18. Can you see down here? It's showing 18. Now, same thing happens if I decide to say, I want to see all systems. If I double click on it, it's going to open a node under devices and show me the members. So either I double click on it or I right click on it and say show members, then it's going to show here. So come here, it's going to see, you see here, if I select all, you see that we have 27 users, which is the same thing as what we have here. Now, these are just nodes that can be closed at any point in time. Okay, you can right click on it and you can close it. You see close, I can close this single node or I can close all the nodes. If I say close node, it's going to close only one. But if I say close all nodes, it's going to close everything that is already open and return back to status quo as it was before it was initiated for us to open what is there. Okay, that is what it is. And if you want to get to know more, I can even tell you that, when looking at examples of collection use, you can have different kind of collection use, depending on what you want to do. One of them is what we regards to as a group resource. Group resource has to do with when you're creating collections that group resource will now based on organization hierarchy. For example, you can create a collection for all computers in, say, London office, based on what you have in your organizational unit in your Active Directory, meaning that I can decide to create a collection and I will link it as, rather than writing query, I just say fetch me all the computers under this organizational unit. It's not going to give me what is in the entire forest, but it depends on the organizational units that I'm targeting will determine on the kind of information that will be fetched under SCCM. You can decide to create, like I said the other time, collection for application deployment. And the whole essence is that sometimes people want to have a control, meaning that I want to deploy Microsoft Office for some certain machines, right? And I'm creating the collection. That collection, I don't want it to be the same thing with the collection I'm going to have for my Chrome if I need to deploy Chrome across board. And the whole essence is that you might want all systems to have Windows Office 2016, but you don't want everybody to have Chrome. So it means that you cannot use the same collection. Sometimes you want to monitor what is happening with your deployment, and you don't want to mix everything all together. You want everything to be distinct, meaning that this deployment is meant for this collection. This deployment is meant for this deployment collection. So you can create as many collections, custom collections as possible based on application deployment. You can also create collections based on managing client settings. I can decide to like say, okay, if I want to remote control to be available on all, neither on all devices or few devices, I can configure my device setting to allow remote control on a set of machines that I want to put together. So I might have 50 now. I might have 50 computers in my company, and I want, say, Kanishika to be able to remote into 10. I want Osna to be able to remote into 10. I want Charity to remote into 10. And I don't want any computer that is not assigned to Charity that Kanishika should have access to. So I can create a collection and I can assign individuals based on their responsibility on action that they can do with the machines or members of that particular collection. So meaning that what Kanishika has access to, Charity will not have access to it. And what Charity has access to it, Usna will not be able to have access to it. So you can restrict activities based on collection and tie them to that particular thing. And it allows them to be able to have a total control. And you can have proper audit on activities going on within the area at which it has been configured to work. You can decide to have collections for, say, power management. You want to configure specific power settings for some certain collections. These come into existence sometimes when you need to upgrade a machine, and you want those machines to be available even when they've closed for the day. You want to upgrade the machine from Windows 7 to Windows 10 or Windows 10 to Windows 10, and you don't want to do it during business hour. You want to do it after business hours. And you tell your users, you say, do not shut down your computer, just sign out when you're going home. Now, sometimes when there's no power management, the system can hibernate itself and go to sleep. When it's asleep and you do not have what we call wake up on LAN enabled on that machine, it means that if you try to target that machine for any deployment, it's going to echo it back as not available. So what always happens is that you can configure what we call power management, okay, whereby you can say, okay, I don't want all systems not to go on sleep. I want specific system to go on sleep and some to not go on sleep. Okay, sometimes you set your computers to go on sleep because you want to control the power utilization within your company so that you can reduce the amount you pay, for electricity, right? So you want to make them to sleep. But when you have a major deployment, you might decide to either configure a client setting or you configure, relating to power management to say X amount of systems, I don't want them to go to sleep. Okay, and when they go to sleep, when there's an configuration, I also want to implement what we call a wake-up plan so that those machines can come out from sleep and be available for deployment. Okay, you can have a role-based, administrative collection as well, where you say collections, you want to create a kind of a collection to be controlled by a group of users. Okay, it's role-based based on their functionality. Like the class you're doing, I told you guys I'm going to be assigning some certain permission to your account. So by the time you log into SCCM, you'll be able to play different roles. And what I want to do is that I will allow you to have access to everything, but not when you're starting. So today, I'm going to give you the right to be able to create application and you'll be able to create collection and you'll be able to create application as well and deploy to them. So by that next week, I can change that role and make you a software update person, whereby what you're going to be doing is just going to be software update. And I want you to have this experience, because by the time you start working on SCCM capacity and you're not working at the L3 level, you can be asked to be focused based on a particular job role, which is going to be on that basis that the permission is going to be assigned to you. So you don't feel as if there's something strange with the environment. You get used to the entire environment and you know what it takes when we're talking about a role base, when you're being configured to be able to do XYZ and not be able to do XYZ. You can create collection based on maintenance window. And I believe that in one of the classes, I've explained to you what maintenance window is all about, okay? Maintenance window gives you that opportunity where you can be able to make your system to be able to reboot and patches will go on it at that particular time. So you set a window and say, within this particular window, this is when I want software update to occur. Within this particular window, this is when I want the system to reboot. You have put a mechanism in place, a kind of a structure in place on how you want your system to reboot because of the criticality of the environment. You don't want anybody patching or rebooting your servers or any of your machines, which is critical within a business time, because it's going to cause a major downtime, which is going to impact your organization. So in a structured environment, you want to set up a maintenance window that specifies when some certain actions is supposed to occur as against when certain action is not supposed to occur within your business environment. Okay, so that is what that is all about. So we're going to be looking at different kind of collections and be creating different kind of collections. Okay, now if you look under device collection, for example, you will see that I created a folder and I called the folder crossword, solution technologies. The whole essence is for me to be able to organize my collections in one place. Okay, if I come here, for example, all devices, it tells me what is here, but I also have collections here. Okay, if I open it on global collection, I created that. If I go to Office 365 collection, you see the number of collections. But if you click on device collection here, it's not showing. Because I just want a situation whereby if I'm deploying for a particular application, I'm labeling my collection based on that application. So it is easier for me to identify, the collection at which I want to perform or trigger an action upon. Okay, and if you go here under collection, you see that I have other ones again that I created for Windows 10, Windows 10. Give me all systems that are desktop, give me all systems that are laptop. I didn't manually create it and say I'm dragging those machines into it. Depending on what you have configured, the system will identify it and will be able to retrieve it out for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another group here. Instead of this crossword, I'll create another one. And that same thing I'm going to do for all of you. So I'll create one called Kanishika, one called Osna, one called Charity. Everything you're doing in terms of your collection should be there. Don't create a collection in someone else's folder. Don't create a collection in someone else's account or space that is not assigned to you. So this will allow you to be able to keep track of everything that you've done. Okay, then you can be able to track all those changes. You're able to track all those deployments. You're able to track all those curation, okay, within your own portfolio. So that's what I'm going to do. So for the purpose of what we're going to be doing now, I'm going to create a collection. I'm going to create a collection, but before creating a collection, I'm going to create a folder so that I can put everything under. So as we get to the deployments, I'll be telling you what each one of them does, rather than talking first and later going to practical. I want all of them to sync. So as I'm showing you, we're doing the practical. I'm showing you, we're doing the practical. So now I want to create a folder where I can organize everything that we're doing, and I want to call it lab. Okay, so I can call it lab, and everything I'm going to be doing, I will ensure that I put it under this folder. I don't mix it up with the production environment. And please, by the time you're working, don't put anything here. Don't touch anything there. Just do your thing. So I'm going to come here, and I want to create, for example, I want to create a collection, and I've already explained what collection means to you. However, there are different kind of ways at which a collection can be created. You can create a collection based on direct rule. What am I saying by direct rule? Direct rule is I create this collection. I'm not using a query. Let the collection be there. I will manually be adding the users that will be part of this collection, because there's no way I might be able to say I'm using a query, because I can say there are some certain people in an organization which are supposed to be working on a particular project, and you have to pick them at random. Probably there are 4 people. Now it will be difficult because they're using the same computer, using some certain things that are the same. So using a query won't solve that problem. The only thing that can solve that problem are 2 things. Number one, you create that collection and you individually add their computer, or you create that collection and you link it up to a security group in Active Directory. So as you're adding people to that security group, it will be adding directly to the container that we have in SCCM. And I'm going to show you guys how that is done. Okay, so you'll be able to do it yourself. Then again, is that, now looking at it in detail, what exactly do we now be referring, based on my explanation, to be a direct rule? Now, you can say that a direct rule is used to choose users or computers that you want to add to a collection, okay? The members does not change unless you remove them. Anything you add manual, you have to remove it manual. You cannot do something manual and say you want to start automatically configuring, a process that will automatically remove it, because it's going to mess everything up. So before you can add these resources to, this directory configuration, the configuration manager must have discovered them and have them imported. And what that means is that when I create a collection and I want to add computer, that computer must be existing within my Active Directory, because by the time I'm adding the name, the system will be checking as against SCCM as against Active Directory to see if this machine really exists or this machine does not exist. If the machine exists, it's going to tell you that it is added. If it's not exists, you're not going to see anything, because the machine does not exist in the first instance within the Active Directory. I told you, I say SCCM picks its information, is a garbage in solution, not garbage in, garbage out. It's a garbage in solution whereby it retrieves information from the Active Directory and bring it into its own environment. But if anything should change in the Active Directory in terms of the computer does not exist anymore, or the users does not exist anymore, now it will get cleaned in the Active Directory, but does not mean that it's going to get cleaned in the SCCM. You have to manually remove it, unless if you have a script that check within the AD and check for machines or users that have been deactivated and clean it up from the SCCM automatically. So it depends on your level that you can be able to do that. And sometimes you don't need to pick, you don't need to know everything first, and there are some things you need to do. You can just Google it. Someone else may have searched it or put the query online. You just copy the query, read the query. If you find that the query is good, you can implement that query and it will give you exactly what you want to do. Okay? Apart from the directory, we have what we call a query rule. And what query rule does is that you're setting up a query and say, I want to generate every machine that is every Windows 10 machine. You may have thousands of machines within your Active Directory. Remember that I told you that SCCM in whole, when you're talking about central administrative site, can support up to 700,000 computers. Imagine I want to see how many systems have Google Chrome installed. Maybe probably over 300,000 users, over 300,000 computers have Google Chrome installed. How do I want to know? Because I can't log into each of these machines one after the other to be able to know which one doesn't have or which one have. So I can create a query and say, check for me every machine that has Windows 10 or every machine that has Google Chrome. The system will look through the Active Directory, look through the database, and look at those machines that falls under the criteria of what I'm trying to look for, and boom, it will come up on the machine. Then I can do whatever I want to do with it. Sometimes you might need it because you want to update those machines. Probably there's a new Delta that is released, and you want to ensure that you apply this Delta to the existing so that it can be compliant, so you can get this done. You also have what we call Include Collection. So let me open within SCCM while I'm talking, then you can be seeing it. So if I come here now under this lab and I want to create, and right click and say Create Device Collection, a dialog box will show here, and I'll tell you what each one of them does. Name is for you to identify the name of what you want to create. So let's say, for example, we want to create, we can say we want a collection where we want to deploy Google Chrome, for example. Now, it depends on how it is structured or the nomenclature being used in any organization that you want to use. So it's this, anytime you're labeling, does not have to be exactly as I'm labeling. So you have to make sure it is explanatory as much as it can. So I can say something like, okay, anything in my organization must start with my company acronym. So I can say something like CSTC. I can say space and say, since I want every machine that has Chrome, I can say Google Chrome. Okay, anybody that sees this collection, we know that that collection is identifying all machines with Google Chrome. You can decide to put a comment, just that if you are no longer in the organization, or sometimes in future you want to know what you have done, for you to have a clear mind of what it is and be able to manage, I can decide to say all computers with Google Chrome installer. Okay? Or we can say with Google Chrome, that's all. So it's a comment. It's just allow you to be able to read, to see what is there, to understand, what is there. So anybody with a clear mind can go there and see what you have done. Now, before we even get to the types of rule we want to use, so I want us to get to that point, then I can relate everything back. Now, your limiting collection. For example, your SCCM will be able to see all the things in your Active Directory, but you can as well limit what you want it to see. So that limiting is saying that I am restricting every information that can be found to this collection. It has its advantage, it has its own disadvantage. Now, the disadvantage there is that when you restrict to a particular collection or particular organizational unit, if the machine you're looking for is in another organizational unit, it's not going to come out. It's not going to show under the collection that you're creating. But does not mean that that machine does not exist in SCCM. The machine exists in SCCM. But because you have limited where you want the system to check, it's not going to see it. So it will only see based on your limiting collection. You are saying that this is where I want you to search up to. Now, using an analogy, for example, you have a drive, 100 gig, and you split it into 50-50. Now, if you store information on the first partition and you save another information on the second partition, now I can decide to tell SCCM based on the configuration, give me everything that exists in that partition. Now, I now say that, okay, I want to focus on the first collection. So I can say that I am limiting what I want to search to this first collection, meaning that every member, everything that exists on the other collection is not going to be found, even if I put their name and say, search for this thing, but limit it to this collection. So it means that it will only see anything under that collection that you have limited it to. But if your limiting collection is based on the forest, the entire thing, anything you search that exists within the AD is going to come out. But if it's restricted, it will not bring it out if it's not part of your limiting collection. So that's what that means. I'm trying to explain as much as I can so that you can understand in detail. So I can browse here. Now, anything you see CSTC, it means I created it. So this one now, you will see that it's saying that the number of systems is 18. But the number of total computer in SCCM here is 27. You'll now be looking at what happened. Why are you seeing 18? There are a lot of factors. Now, one of the factors is that there is 18 under desktop, under all desktop and server clients. When you see all desktop and server clients, it means that all the systems that have SCCM agents installed. Any system that does not have SCCM agents installed is not going to be under all desktop and servers. Okay, that's why you see that the number of systems is higher than the number of desktop and server. It's because some of them don't have agents, and if it doesn't have agents, it doesn't show up under all desktop. So what I did when I used CSTC all state is that I created that collection and I did what we call included query, included collection row, whereby I'm just including, I'm not writing any code. I'm just saying what is in this collection, what is in this collection, bring them up together in one collection. And I just close it. And it will combine everything together and give me that information. Okay, so that's what this is all about. So now, because I want the machine to list me only systems with agents on it, I don't want just any other systems because I don't know if those systems are still in use or they're no longer in use. So I can make my limited collection to be this. Okay, now the next thing is going to ask you what kind of rule do you want to follow? I have talked about inclusive, a direct rule. I've talked about a query rule. Okay, I talked a little about the query rule, but I've explained what it means. And if I want to do that, you see here, it's the add rule. So you see all the rules there that is in there. So now, we now looked at it. Like I didn't explain what a query rule is all about, but I'm going to talk about it again. If you're talking about a query rule, right, I'm saying that this is a situation whereby you can dynamically update a member of a collection based on a query that configuration manager runs on a schedule. Meaning that when you have a query, you must configure how often you want SCCM to check Active Directory to identify if there's any new item that needs to be added to the collection you're trying to create. For example, you can create a collection of users, from HR department. okay, that is lying under your organizational unit in your Active Directory domain service. Now, this collection is automatically updated, meaning that if the new person comes to HR, they're going to add that person to that HR organizational unit. So by the time the system works based on the scheduled time, it's going to discover the new ones and it's going to make it available in that collection and you'll be able to use it. Okay, so that is how that works. So when you also remove a user from that group that you've created in AD, by the time the synchronization works again, it automatically removes them. Automatically. Because what? They're being managed by a query that is set to run at a specific time to check for differences within the organizational unit. You also have what we call the include collection rule. And I said what it does is that it allows you to combine more than one collection. So if I've created like 4 different collections now, and I want to bring them together, sometimes a member, when I mean a member, I mean either a user or a device, can be in collection A, might be in collection B, collection C. By the time I add all of them together, it's not going to give me three users or 3 devices. It's going to give me only one. It's going to consolidate it together and give me only one device, okay, that is going to display on the screen. So now you can boldly say that in an include collection row, members or machines, sorry, somebody is joining back, Charity. Members or machines, right, within another collection you can bring them together in a to form a new collection. So if the included collection changes, configuration manager will update the membership of the current collection on a schedule. So it means that you don't joke with your scheduling, which is here under here. You see, by default it says 7 days, but you change it to how often you want SCCM to refresh that collection to check. Now, when you're working with, okay, let me take a step back. When you collection, again, you also want to check here saying that use incremental update for this collection. This does not work for a direct row because there's nothing direct row want to update because you are the one adding it. But on a query row, you want a situation whereby the system can accept incremental update to this collection. Okay, so that it makes him of it. That's when you click here. You actually say an incremental update periodically evaluate new devices and add the resources that qualify to this collection. When it means qualify, it means that they meet the criteria of the limiting collection. That is when it's going to be added. So like I said, the machine might be existing within SCCM, but when there's a barrier, which is referred to as limiting collection, and the system is not perfect to be as part of that member, it's not going to come into that collection, even though it exists within your domain controller. Okay, so that's what it does. Then we look at what we call the exclude collection. And how does that work? I create a collection that gives me all the machines within my organization. I say, oh, there are some critical machines that I don't want you to do anything about. They'll give you that numbers. You create them as a direct row. Depending on what they're doing, sometimes you can create them as a query row. When you create them, you create your new collection, then you apply the exclude with it under the rules, and the system will remove all the machines that is inside that collection that you want to exclude, remove them from that collection. So it means that anything you do, those people under the exclude collection rule will not be impacted at all. So let's try and create a collection for, let's say Google Chrome, but I'm going to use manual first, then we'll do another one and see if the system can see any machine with a Google Chrome, even though I don't think much is here in the environment. So a direct row, like I said, while you add it manual, there are different ways. I'll show you how you can use query to do it, how you can use partial scripting to add it. Then I'm going to show you how you can do it yourself. So I'm going to add one machine. Then I'll show you another way where going forward after you added that machine and the business requirements change and you need to add more machines to it, how you can go about it. So here I can just say, what kind of rule am I using? I want to use a direct rule. Okay. The system changed the screen and it wants you to now select the machine you want. So I can click next. Now it's telling me now that under system resources, I should put in the name that I want. All I need to do is very simple. I can either put asterisk and it's going to give me all the machines that exist, or I can type in the machine myself. So if I put asterisk, for example, okay, and I say next, it's going to give me all the machines that exist within the Active Directory. So I can decide to pick one. So I'm going to do two, so I can do different ways for you. So I can put this one, and I say next. You see, say next, okay, and say close. It will add one machine to it. Another way I can add a machine again to it, rather than using that, I'll still use the same directory. I'll click next, but rather than putting percentage to give me everything, I will just type in the machine name. So I can just, because if you have an Active Directory that has a lot of machines, it will be difficult for you to say you are searching around everything that is available. So I can say something like CSTC-LT, I can say DT-01. So the system will check if it exists or it does not exist. You see, it brings only it out rather than giving me everything. So the wildcard symbol, which is that percentage, is going to give you every machine. But when you know the machine you want to use, just type it in and it's going to be the only machine that will come out as part of the result. So I click here and I say next, okay? Next, and I say finish. So you see there are two machines there. All I need to do, I told you this schedule doesn't work literally because it's on a directory. It really have no function. It's not again that it doesn't have a function. You can decide to add, but the system will not refresh itself. So you're saying that if I'm adding this machine, don't refresh until 7 days later. That is the configuration. But I'm not going to do anything here because it's just directory. And I'm not going to click on incremental because it is not using a query. So it's irrelevant or inconsequential with regards to what we want to do. So I'm just going to click next. The system will tell you the name of the collection that you've created. It's going to tell you the comment that you have done under it. And it's going to tell you that you see, say directory, the members that you've added to it. So you can now click next. Then you wait for it. The system will say it has finished. Then you click close. So immediately you finish, you say it said it's 0 member, but there's member there. So you wait a little bit for it, or sometimes you can just right click on it and click refresh, okay? Or you say that I should update the members. So if I click on refresh, for example, the number will change to 2, which is the 2 that we added. So if you want to see the 2, what is inside, just right click on it or you double click it and say show member. By the time you go there, you will see that there are 2 machines, the DT one and the LT one that we just added. And like I told you, you can get as many details as possible. It's going to tell you who is using this machine, or who, you understand, the people that are using and who is currently logged on to that machine. So let me close this node. So meaning that we've created our first collection, but it's a limited collection. So now I can now say that I want to create another collection, and I want this collection to give me all the servers in a particular OU. So I don't want to type it. There are different ways at which it can be done. So you will do as much as we can in terms of how we want to specify it. But before we do that, I want to check all the machines that exist within a particular OU. So I have OU that have all the workstation in the training room, and I want the system to bring everything out. I don't know the name of the machines. Let's put it like that. And I want the system to give me, because I've created an OU, organizational unit, that have all these machines. I don't need to get myself bothered. It's just going to bring everything out for me, right? So all I need to do is very simple. I'm just going to right click here and say create a collection, for example. I put it a name now. Let's say I can say CSTC space dash. I can say training. I can say training room workstation. Okay, that's what I want to put there. And I know that this training room, all the computer in the training room is inside a particular collection, inside a particular organization. So I don't need to stress myself. So I can just do this and just put here, I'll copy it so that anybody that wants to read it, so I can say all, I can paste here, okay? Then I'm going to do my limiting collection. Remember, I am using this because I customize it, and I made it to interfere with this because we're still going to be doing inclusion rules. So you see what I've done to have created that. So I'm going to limit it to this, and I'm going to say next, okay? Now here, rather than using a directory, I'm going to use a query row. I click here. Now the system will ask you that, do you want to give the query a name? You have to give a name. So I can just say, you can type anything there. It doesn't have to be anything. So I can say training underscore room underscore workstation. That's how I want to label mine. Okay. So now I've have it here. Okay, so all you need to do is very simple. You click on edit query statements. Okay, you can decide to import your query. If you have a query somewhere, you can do that. So it's going to give you a dialog box. For example, here is to execute everything that you want to do, but we've not done anything. And I can convert everything that we were doing into a query. So if I click here, you see the system is giving a query. I can go back to design. Because you don't know the query now, which is called WQL, I've explained that to you, where we have your Windows management instrumentation, which is the query that SCCM uses. So I'm going to go to criteria, and I'm going to click here on the this orange symbol that says new. Okay, the system is going to ask you, now, what do you want? I say, okay, a simple value. I leave it like that. Then I have to specify. So I'm going to be looking at, let's click here, select, and we specify what we want. So yeah, you see, I click here and it gives me a new dialog box to be able to specify my attribute class. So I'm going to click here and say, okay, I want to specify based on, let's say, you can choose operating system, you can choose whatever you want to choose, and the system will give you. So I can say I want to base this on, let's say, let's use system resource, for example, system resource, okay? Then under the attributes, we specify what we want, and we can decide to click to choose our organizational unit, because I told you that we're going to be working on system OU name. That's organizational units, okay? We can also work on groups. So, but what we want to work is organizational unit that will give us all the machines that exist in the training room. So we click here and we say, okay, now we have specified. It's saying equals to what? You can choose any of your operators. So you can say equals to or something like, and most times you use like when you don't want to put the exact name, but you want to use some signing Y card to be able to identify some specifics. So I'm going to say equals to, and here, rather than typing the name of the OU, I'm not going to type so I don't make a mistake, because if there is a mistake in it, it's not going to fresh out any information. So I'm going to click on value, and the system will give me all the OUs that exist within the Active Directory. Remember, I say I want to get all the machines in the training room. So you see what is here? So if you look at it very well, you will see that I say here, and I say desktop, okay? We have desktop training room. Can you see? There's a difference between desktop and training room. There's a difference between workstation and training room. So I'm narrowing to that particular OU. So this is what I want. So all the machine that is going to be giving me is going to be DT, which means desktop. And I know you still remember those names when you're logging into your own particular machine. So this is what I want. And I just say, okay. Okay, so I say, okay. Now, all what I've done is this here. Can you see it? This is what I've specified. But the system can convert it to a WQL, which is how you're going to learn, if you're not a programmer, to learn using it. So you learn the query by interpreting what you do by GUI to go back into your WQL, and you can understand what it means. So all this that we have done now is the same thing as this, show query. So the system breaks it and say, I am saying that select every information that you have under your SMS, and you know what SMS means. It means that system management server, on this, where what? SMS are this, system OU name is this. Okay, I can test it before even closing it. That is the new way. In the old configuration manager, you don't have the opportunity to test it before the machine start bringing it. Meaning that you have to finish everything, then you test if any machine doesn't come. But if any machine doesn't come, then you have to open it again, edit that configuration to suit what you want. So it doesn't make sense. I guess that's why Microsoft says, before you complete the configuration, test it. So you can click on this sign, and it's going to tell you what machine exists between what you've picked. If nothing is there, it doesn't conform with what you're looking for, then you can change it, the query, to suit into what you're looking for. So if I click here now, see what happens. The system is going to check within it, and it's going to give me all the machine that exists there. Okay, it has more detail. So let's narrow what we're getting and take it to, hold on. Can you see all the machine? So it's giving me DT 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those are the machines in the training room. So the system is going to give you, then you see it has more information. It's going to give you the same OU name that you've already specified. It can give you the group as well. What group do they belong under the domain controller? And you can get as many information as possible. but it's just searching based on what is there. And you see this build is based on the operating system. Okay, and I'm going to explain that to you as we continue to go on. Okay, so if I click here, it seems that it works. It gives me all the machine in the training room. You see that here, there's nothing like giving me any system that has LT, which is laptop. So everything I have here is what? Is DT. Where is it again? Okay, it seems I'm moving too fast. Okay, you see everything is DT because they're all desktops there. You see that there's no laptop because there's no laptop in that is configured or that put under that particular organizational unit. Okay, then it's going to tell you, see, it's telling you the operating system as well. So you can decide to change the query of what you're looking for. So if you come here, you see the kind of operating system. Now you have the processor type. These are all the details, the client version, that's the SCCM agent. Then it's going to give you, you can see the distinguished name. I believe that you still remember that, which we mentioned in our AD class. And it's telling you the IP address that exists on those machines. And okay, and also that's this. You're seeing these two IP. This is version 4 and this is version 6. IP version 6, this is IP version 4. So it's telling you anyone you want to use to connect to the machine. Okay, and it's also giving you your IP subnet, okay, that you're using. There's a place I talked about operating system that I saw the other time. And it's going to tell you who last logged into those machines. So you see Sam log into this machine, Rachel log into one, Sam, Amiibo, Chinelo, Sam. Doesn't mean that you guys don't log in, but this means that it's been long. You guys log in into your lab environment, okay? Because this information is very recent. So it has a light stamp, then it tells you the machine name, the byte, and it's going to give you the operating system. So this is telling you that you're using Microsoft Windows NT Workstation 10.0. So it is the version that will now tell you what kind of Windows 10 machine that you have installed or on that machine. So I can say close. It means that this works for me. Then I say okay. So the system automatically put a query. I said okay, and now I'm going to put incremental, which means that anytime there's a new machine, added to that organizational unit in AD, I want it to come here automatically without me having to do anything. Now, the good part is that when you create this collection and you create an application and you apply to this collection, you're saying that anytime a new machine is added to this collection, all the software that we've created for this collection, let it be installed automatically on that machine. So you don't have to install new application fresh for that machine. No. Once it is being discovered in any of the collection, you can have as many collections as possible. So immediately that machine is joined to the domain, the system will pick it based on where you specify it. And all the application that has been deployed to that particular collection will be deployed on the machine. So you don't have to do any manual process of trying to reinstall those machines on that particular computer. Okay? Then I'm going to say incremental. Now, depending on the sensitivity and the kind of activity you do in your organization, you now want to determine how long or what duration do you want to put, okay, that you want the system to run a kind of a schedule scan to check for new information or old one, or the ones that has been deleted, so that the collection can be updated. So I can click here and change it. I say I don't want any 7 days, I want every 7 minutes. But you want to be careful when the minute is too small, because it's just going to be making your SCCM to be busy, and it might be affecting productivity when you're trying to work within office hours. So you click OK. Okay, now it is query. Now you see here it's a query rather than saying direct row. And this has changed from 7 days to 7 minutes. Then you say next. The system will now tell you what you're trying to do first before it is done. You say you're trying to create a collection called this, and you put a comment here and you create a query that you title this. You say, okay, yeah, that's fine. Then you say next. The system will process what you've done. And once you see a green icon that marked it, it means that it's been processed, and you say close. You see here it says 0. Now, sometimes it says 0, you click on refresh and it's not going to come fast. It means that there are a lot of activities running behind, okay, that you have to wait. It's going to come. So sometimes you're not in rush. You just want to wait. So you come here and you say you refresh, for example, first. See, the system gives you 8 because there are 8 computers. I can decide to see what machine is part of this member. You either double click or you right click and click open member. So you see all the machines, they're all DTs. These are machines within what? Within the training room. It's not giving you all the servers. Okay, I'm not saying give me all the computers that exist at Crossword. I say give me all the machines that exist within a particular OU. So it makes it easier for you to control. whatever it is that you're working on. So I can close it. And before I move to the next one, which we're going to do after we go on break and come back, is that on this direct rule, you see, I showed you how you can add machine manually. But now, how do you add machine after? We know that on a query rule, you don't need to do anything. If you once you move the machine to that OU in the Active Directory, it's going to show up automatically inside the collection because you've tied to that particular OU. Now, in the situation where it is manual and you've created the collection and there's a new requirement that says add Fazel's machine to this collection, what are you going to do? You just right click on it, on the collection that has the manual, then you say update member. So I can click on update member, for example. I'm sorry, I went to, no, not update member, sorry. Update member is when you want to refresh that collection, to trigger and update the member to look for new ones, not just refresh. So you click here and you say add resource. I'm manually adding resource to this collection. It doesn't mean that under the query, you cannot manually add. Okay, but why do you want to do that when you've created effort to create a group or an OU that is managing it? Why do you want to add anything manual? Let it be automatic. Let it be controlled by a central portal where information can go in and go out easily without you having to be doing cleanup every time. So all you need to do is this. Like what I was saying, I click here on the Google and click here. And I say, I'm going to say add resource. Remember that I put Google, so I'm trying to say that it is every machine that has Google Chrome installed. But normally, the name forfeit what we're working on because I'm just adding manually. I'm going to show you how you can add and specify to say look for this application without me manually adding it. So we use a query rule to now because to get the Chrome out because the query we've done is to bring out every machine existing in particular OU. Now we want to work based on application and say, go to all the systems within the organization and give me everybody that have Google Chrome. Okay, so we're going to do that. This is just a test. I just labeled it like that, so don't get in this stuff. Now, remember that if you want to add manually, after the collection has been created, you right click here and you say add resource. So I can say, okay, add resource. Let me type in and say, I want to use CSTC DT-08, for example. Then you're going to search for it. So the system is going to look within your collection and see if it exists, then it's going to bring it down. So when you click on search, you see the system can find it. It even give you the site name. It's searching, but it has not added. Then you now click here, add, then to move. So you see, you search, it comes here. You click and it comes here. If I want to take it out, I just double click it and it's out. Okay, I can search again. It's here. I double click here, it comes down. If you double click down here, it takes it out. You search, you double click up here on the result, it adds it, and you say, okay. So you see, I add it, but what? It's not there yet. So I need to refresh that collection. Sometimes you refresh it and it doesn't come out. So you need to update the membership. So if I refresh, you see it's not coming out. It's taking time. So I can just click here and say, update membership. The system will tell you that this action will evaluate the membership rule for the selected collection and might take some time to finish. You say, yes, I'm fine. And 3, it has turned to 3. So if I open it, I will see 08 that I just added to it, which is this. Now, we've done this, and let me do one thing before we go on break. Assuming that we have this collection that we created now, we just say Google Chrome, but we know it's not Google Chrome. So I can just decide to, let's rename it. If you want to rename it, just right click on it and you go to properties. If you give you the dialog box back, then you can change the name. So since the purpose is not for this thing, so we can just change it and just call it, maybe we want to install one application. We can just call it, say, we can just call it, say, 7Z. 7Z, for example. So I can just say all machine with 7Z, even though it's manual, okay? So I'm just going to put here. Once you apply it, it's going to change. So that's how to update and that's how to add. So I want us to ask questions. We have 3 minutes before we go on break. So any question on what we've done so far? The floor is open.
None from me.
Thank you. Any other person?
No question from me.
Thank you, Kanishiga. Anybody?
No question from me.
Thank you, Amigo.
No question.
Thank you. Okay, so it seems like it's explanatory. So I want us to go on break, and let's be back by 4 o'clock, because I don't want to say 2 minutes less or 2 minutes this. So by 4 o'clock, let's be back so that we can continue, because we have a lot of practical that we need to work on. I want us to do as many examples as possible. So by the time you're doing yours, you have a clear understanding, what you want to do and a better appreciation of what you're supposed to work on. Okay, so I'm going to stop recording now. Then we're going to come back and we're going to continue from there.